Hello, guys. There's a couple of you in the stream already. Just to put in the chat if you can hear me, so when I get started, I can just wait a few minutes. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Right, that's good. All right, cool. So welcome, guys. Baize Breakdown stream. It's going to be just a chat to you guys about snooker, about the season. Obviously, it's not going to be very interactive, but I'm going to be making this stream, so I'm going to be posting it to YouTube. So if you guys do drop out, you haven't got the time to be in the stream, that's fine. It'll get posted after the stream's done. There'll also be opportunity in a little while, probably 15-20 minutes into the stream. I'll be taking some questions from you guys or opinions from you guys. Anything you want to talk about, you can use the chat. As long as there's a few people in the stream, it doesn't really matter to me. As long as there's sort of one person in the stream, it's fine. Because I will be posting it to YouTube anyway, and then obviously people that are going to be watching retrospectively can do so. So, what I'm going to be doing basically is reviewing the snooker season so far. Talk a little bit about the Players Championship, which starts tomorrow. A few other things that I want to talk about: Ronnie O'Sullivan, Luca Brissell, Zhao Xintong, and a few other things about the channel that's going to be coming up in February and March. So without further ado, I'll get into it. So my predictions video, I think some of you who are long-time subscribers of my channel will know I did a video predicting this season's winners of the Triple Crown events and other things like that. And I've got 2 out of 2 so far. Which is actually quite weird. Well, to be fair, that's a little bit of a lie. I said that Mark Selby would win the Masters and Kyron would win the UK Championship, which I got them the wrong way around. But I did predict them correctly. So, I think it's 2 out of 2 for me. And I predicted them because I thought that Kyron has won the World Championship, and I feel like he really wants to complete the Triple Crown. I think he wants to see himself as like one of the top names in the snooker circuit, and I think by doing so, he would need to win the UK Championship and the Masters. Mark Selby's overdue one, and I think he would wanted to have got to 10 Triple Crowns. So by winning the Masters or the UK Championships, he did so. So I'm really kind of happy that I got those right, because usually when I predict things, I get them absolutely wrong. But yeah, I was really impressed with Mark Selby during the UK Championship. I think that tournament was an eye-opener on quite a lot of levels, and I think we've had a really weird season, because I think we were talking about in one of my other videos. We were talking about the fact that the World Grand Prix had 4 Chinese semi-finalists, which was crazy. But it was only at the UK Championship when it was, I think, 4 English semi-finalists or 4 British semi-finalists. So we've had a weird season where we've got kind of the new breed coming through that are continuing to come through. The likes of Wu Yiza and the world champion Zhao Xintong, and the likes of Chang Bin Yu and people like that. And then we've obviously got the players like the Murphys, the Trumps, the Selbys, who are still top players. So it'd be interesting to see how the season goes on. Kyron Wilson winning the Masters, I think, was great, because he looked absolutely down and out at the UK Championship in York with his cue problems. And I was like, you can imagine, I'd said to myself, right, I am going to Oh yes, Neil Robertson. Uh, yeah, you're right, Michael. You actually are right. The UK Championships was three English and Robertson. My point, sorry, of that wasn't that they were British, more that they were the status quo. So obviously we had three English and one Robertson was Australian. But I think the way with the tour is going, the modern tournaments are, a lot of them are going to be Chinese. So the fact that we had four of the status quo in the semi-finals, and then in the World Grand Prix in Hong Kong, we had four of the new breed of Chinese players, was my point. But Michael, well spotted. You can see there the research I did there was terrible. But teething problems and everything. But what I was saying about Kyron is that when he had those cue problems, obviously I was like, right, Kyron Wilson, he's going to win the UK Championship. And then he goes out in the first round to Elliot Slessor, can't put a ball. I was thinking, right, my predictions are all going to be completely wrong. But for those of you who are watching, I'm going to put a question to you now, Adam Peterson. Yeah, Ronnie's not in the Players' Championships. He pulled out, I think, quite a while ago. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ronnie a little bit later in the stream, so stay tuned for that. I'll probably do about 5-10 minutes about Ronnie. But the question I have to you guys in the chat is, well, first of all, in that video I posted, I think in July or August, I had a prediction for this season that I thought Zhao Xintong would struggle. And what I meant by struggle, I didn't mean that he would be awful, but I thought that he would find it difficult to win multiple events and show himself as a dominant force on the tour. Up until he won in Hong Kong, I felt I got that right. I know he won in Saudi, in one of the tournaments in Saudi, and he had some, he did all right in the Masters. But my thought process was that, you know what, maybe I am right that Xintong has struggled this year. But the way he played in Hong Kong completely put that to bed. So my question to you guys in the chat is two-parter. Number one, do you think Zhao Xintong has performed well this season? And number two, do you think he could be the first person to break the Crucible curse? Because obviously he's the only person who can do. But I think he will go deep in the World Championship. I don't know if he'll win it, but I think he could have a really good chance. So that's my question to you guys in the chat. You can put your answers in the chat and I'll read them out as we go on. But yeah, Adam Peterson just said Ronnie pulled out again. So yeah, I'm going to talk about Ronnie. My third prediction in that predictions video earlier on in the season was that Ronnie O'Sullivan would win the World Championship. He would win his 8th. And I got 2 out of 3 so far. I've got Selby and Wilson, albeit the wrong way around, but they've both won their tournament. So does that make me more or less positive that Ronnie will win the 8th? I don't know. But I do want to talk about Ronnie, and I'll get to your replies in a sec. But I just want to talk about Ronnie first and foremost. I think Ronnie. The reason I thought that Ronnie would win the World Championship this year is that I couldn't see him having another bad season. And what I mean by a bad season, last season he didn't win a tournament, and I think from January to April pulled out of everything. Just didn't see himself all through the season, and I thought he's not going to have a season like that again. He's going to win a tournament. He's going to perform better, and that is the reason I said he'll win the world title. He's had a better season, I would say. He got to the final in Saudi Arabia, won 200 grand, which I think is more money than most ranking events. And he's had some flashes. I mean, 2 147s again in Saudi, played all right in China. I didn't think he played too badly in York at the UK. I just think Zhao Yulong was better than him on the day and was able to nick frames. Ronnie scored heavier. So I don't think he's had a bad season. Do I think that he could win the World Championship, though? I'm not going to change my prediction. I think Ronnie can. But my worry now is that you can definitely see that he doesn't care about the tour anymore. He's moved to Hong Kong or Dubai, I believe. And you can tell because he plays in Saudi Arabia, he plays in China, he plays in Hong Kong, but he doesn't play in England anymore. I think the only tournament he's played in the UK this season is the UK Championship. There might be another one, but that's the main one. Didn't play in the Masters, didn't play in the Champion of Champions, although he was originally meant to play in that. He was withdrawn from that. He didn't play in the Masters, like I said. He didn't play in some of the other events. He's not playing tomorrow at the Players. I doubt if he'll play in the Tour Championship. Potentially he will. I don't even know if he'll qualify. But he will play in the World Championship. And the fact that a few years ago when he was living in England, he was putting out of every Chinese event, it shows to me that Ronnie doesn't see the tour as a tour anymore. He just sees it as a few events that he could turn up for if he feels like it. And for me, when you're 35 and you're genius and you're the best player of all time, then you can do that. You can have a year out. You can take off 6 months. You can do loads of stuff like that. But when you are 50, and although I don't think the players around him at the top are much better, I don't think they're any better than they were 10, 15 years ago, really. But there is more depth in quality. And I think the ceiling of the top players is the same, maybe even a bit lower. But the floor of the tour is a lot higher. So the margin for error at the bottom, 10 years ago, Ronnie playing early rounds of tournaments, he could probably turn up, not practice and win 4-0. Now, you're going to lose first round. And I think Ronnie knows that, which is why he's tried to play a bit more this season. But is his heart really in it? I don't think so. However, I still think that he could win the World Championship. The reason why I say this is because last year, he was awful. He changed ferrules, he changed cues, and he still got to the semi-finals, albeit he lost to Xintong. But I think that if Ronnie if he prepares and he takes it seriously, then he's still got a couple of years where he can have 2 or 3 weeks and play really well and win those matches. So I'll just answer some of the questions before I go on, or reply to some of the comments. So Michael, I reckon for Xintong, either round one will prove a banana skin once more for the champion, or he goes to. I completely agree with you. Michael. I think he either gets to the final and either wins it or goes toe-to-toe with the eventual champion, or he loses early 10-6, 10-7, kind of like a lot of champions do, like Kyron did last year. Gaming and Sport AG47. I think Xintong has been decent but inconsistent. I think he has a good chance at the World Championships. That's exactly what I think. I think when he's been at his best, he's been great, but he hasn't been at his best a lot. And you have to remember that Zhao Xintong, as a professional, hasn't had many seasons where he's been a top player. I know he won the UK Championship, he's won the German Masters, and he's won the World Grand Prix now and the World Championship. But throughout his career, he's had patches where he's been a top player. This is his first season where he's probably been expected to win all season. So next season will probably be more of a gauge of how good he actually is. Adam Peterson, feels so tough to say, but if he's on form, he has, say, really good temperament for it, but sometimes he doesn't seem up for it. Yeah, I think he's a little bit blasé with his kind of approach, if you like. I just noticed this girly stuff behind me. I'm actually in my girlfriend's dressing room. Deal with it. But yeah, that's funny. I'm just going to keep that. But no, I think Xintong's very blasé, isn't he? You can tell he's blasé, but that might help him. He's not as blasé as Luca. But yeah, Dubai, Ronnie's in Dubai. I think Ronnie does care about the big dollar events. Still playing at 50 and looks hurt when he's beaten. Yeah, I agree, Michael. You make some good points. I think Ronnie does care up to the point he wants to play in Saudi. He wants to play in the UK. The Masters, I think. I've spoken about the Masters. If you want to go and see my opinions about Ronnie and the Masters, you can go and watch my Ronnie O'Sullivan video recently where I spoke about him pulling out of events. I don't think he'll ever play in the Masters again for one reason or another. But I think the World Championship, the Saudi Masters, the UK Championship, the big tournaments in China, such as the Tour Championship, and any event he does enter, he does want to win. But the question is, if you're not playing, and the likes of Judd Trump and Neil Robertson and Zhao Xintong and Wu Yiza and all these players are playing in every event, in almost every event, how can you compete with those players? I mean, when you're 30, 35, you can do it. When you're 50, I don't think you can. But notwithstanding, I still believe Ronnie can win the World Championship because I think going to Sheffield, you need to play over 3 and 4 sessions. And if you get through your first round, you've got to play over 3 sessions. No snooker player under the age of 30 right now is proficient at 3 or 4 session matches because they don't play enough of them. They don't play any of them. Wu Yiza might have played 1 in his career. Zhao Xintong's only played 4 or 5. You're looking at players that are 35 to 45. They're the ones that are favourites, I think, at the World Championship because they've got experience playing these long session matches. Ronnie O'Sullivan, if he plays in the World Championship last year and they're best of 11s, he probably loses to Ali Carter in the first round, or he loses to Si Jiahui, or he loses to Pang Jiansu, because over 11 or 9 frames, they would have beaten him. But because it was 25, he was able to sort of get back into that game. Ronnie's a slow starter now. He doesn't practice before matches. So all these things, at Sheffield over 3 or 4 sessions, 3 or 4 days, that's where I think the playing field at the top, it goes from, Wu Yiza and players like that could win it to, it goes from that to it goes so small where, Ronnie O'Sullivan, he's here with Wu Yiza in most events, but at the World Championship, he's here. And, and Wu Yiza needs that experience to kind of close the gap, I'd say. Glizzy Bobbler, but yeah, that's yeah, Jerry. I'm not going to expose his real name, but yeah, that's my opinion of Ronnie O'Sullivan. Can he win the World Championship? Yeah, I think he can, because I think at the World Championship in 2026 in April, May, everyone that's watching, put your winner in the chat. Put your winner on the chat. Thoughts about Mark Williams. I'm going to talk about Mark Williams in a second. The decline of Ding is baffling. I'm going to talk about those 2 things actually, because they're actually key points I was going to make. So, but anyone that's watching this, put in the chat who you think is going to win the World Championship this year, and we'll have a look at the end. Anyone you think can win it, and I'll discuss who I think. But I just want to touch on Adam Peterson. Thoughts on Mark Williams recently. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to do my Players' Championship preview, and I'm going to speak about every first round match. And I'm going to sort of touch on a few players and who I think is going to win the Players' Championship. But Mark Williams, it's a bit weird. I was looking at the Players' Championship draw, and Mark plays Barry Hawkins, I believe. And I was actually quite confused. I didn't realise that Mark Williams was so high up on the 1-year list. Mark Williams is 4th on the 1-year list, which is, I thought, was actually quite baffling. I couldn't believe that. I thought that was a typo. I thought 14th. No, he's 4th. Mark Williams, for me, I know he won a tournament this year. I understand that. But he's very inconsistent nowadays. And I think the reason, Adam, for that is that he doesn't practice outside of tournaments. I think it's almost confirmed that he doesn't practice very much when he's not at events. So for Mark Williams, I think if he plays a tough player in a first round, he could get beat easily, and he can look awful. And he can. I think there was a match at the Masters. I don't know who he played. He played Mark Allen at the Masters, and he couldn't make 30. He couldn't make 30 because he doesn't practice. But if he had got through that round, I think you'd have seen him improve, because he's one of those players that practices for 3 or 4 hours at tournaments. He'll go and find a table and he'll practice and he'll work on stuff. And I think Mark Williams, for me, he either plays really well, in a tournament when he's just got through a first round, or he gets beat in the first round. So that for me. But I think you'll start to see Mark lose more and more as he gets older, because he's in his 50s now. And it's father time, isn't it? Which is unfortunate. But next thing was decline of Ding is baffling. Yeah. So my next point is about the World Grand Prix. The 4 Chinese players that got to the semi-finals, and obviously the all Chinese final. amazing, fantastic, and those 4 Chinese lads, are brilliant. And Zhao Xintong made 5 centuries in that final. He was brilliant, and Zhao Xintong actually said in that tournament, "I think this is going to happen more and more." And it got me thinking. I think it will. I think in the next 10, 15 years, you're going to see it happen a lot more, especially because the top British, obviously we alluded to earlier, Neil Robertson is Australian, but the top players that have been the top players for the last 20 years, they're going to drop off because they're too old. I don't think it's necessarily because they won't be good enough. I just think it will be because they get too old. But I'm talking about the next 5 years. I was thinking, who do you guys see as, in the next 5 years, being a Chinese player who can dominate? Not just, maybe not dominate, but be a top 3 player consistently. Now, obviously, you've got Xintong, who's the world champion, and I think he's obvious. So let's leave it at that. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. Gamings and Sport AG47 said the decline of Ding is baffling. I don't think Ding is capable of winning a tournament anymore. I don't think he's capable of winning a tournament anymore. So Ding's out for me. Xintong, yes, Ding's out. Now, everyone's going to say Wu Yiza, and Adam Peterson's just said Wu Yiza, and I agree up to a point. I've seen him win tournaments on massive bucket pockets. I've seen him outplay a lot of players in China. I know World Grand Prix was in Hong Kong. But for me, I've not seen him do it in a longer match. But I think he could do it because of his ability. So Wu Yizi, yes. And then the other ones right now, I think probably Zhao Guodong. He's obviously won back-to-back Wuhan Opens. But I'm not talking about winning Wuhan Opens. I'm talking about winning the biggest events, winning the Players' Series events, winning the World Championship. What other Chinese players? Because we hear about the Chinese takeover. And yeah, there are a lot of very good Chinese players, Pang Jiansu, Li Paifan, a lot of really good ones. But I don't see, outside of Xintong, Wu Yiza, where this takeover is going to come from, because with Zhang Anda, yes, but again, it's very similar. Zhang Anda, for me, is a player that wins tournaments in China. But I watch him in England, and I watch him in Scotland, and I watch him in Germany, and I don't see the same player. Si Jiaowei, a good player, but he never wins a big match. If you put Si Jiaowei at the World Championship, should have beaten Ronnie O'Sullivan. If he was that good, he would have done what Zhao Xintong did, and he didn't do it. He didn't take the ball by the horn. So where do you think these Chinese winners are coming? I'm not saying there's going to be, of course, there's going to be players in the top 16 and the top 32 for the next 30 years. But where's the next winner coming from? Xintong, yes, and I accept Wu Yiza if he improves, but in some areas. But where's the rest of them going to come from? Just going to read through some of your comments about the World Championship. Kingsley and Amy Bates say, Mark Selby wins this year for me, coming to form lately. Looking 1977, I think Ronnie will lose in the first round. Gaming and Sport AG, Zhao Xintong. Jerry says has to be Selby. I think Judd will win. I think Judd Trump or Mark Selby wins World Championship. We'll say Mark Williams, Selby. I reckon Trump. The fact that he's only won one World Championship when he's 36 is kind of crazy. Michael, maybe on base. Does anyone think Mark Allen is past his best? I think Mark Allen is not past his best. I just think he needs to go back to his original style of play, which I think he's trying to do, and I think he's teething problems at the moment. David Harrison, evening everyone. Hope you're all well. Personally, I think Ronnie will be talked about in the world, but I think Selby might do it again. However, Sheffield will be different without JV. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to commentary without JV. I might even watch Eurosport. Not even just because TNT now, isn't it? Wu Yiza, Adam Peterson says. Okay, so Xintong, Wu Yiza or Zhang Anda. Top 3 in the next 5 years, Gaming and Sport AG says. Zhang Anda top 3, I don't see it. I just don't see it. He doesn't win a tournament outside of China. He doesn't win matches outside of China often. Wu has to improve his safety a lot. Yeah, that's my point. If he improves his safety, you've got a serious player. His international champs win, then beat Murphy 6-2, Zhao 6-0, Toto Kyle Wilson at just 22, maybe for his going place. Yeah. I think for a lot of Chinese players, the kind of like the trajectory that they go on is they start as really promising players. They either drop off. Li Haishan was one of those. I thought he was going to be here and he dropped off, but they then win a tournament in China often. I'm not saying every Chinese player. They win a tournament often, and then after that, they start winning tournaments all over. And I mean the Triple Crown, stuff like that. Wu Yize and Zhang Anda and Zhao Guodong are at this point. They win Chinese events, the international championship. Those tournaments are big tournaments. I'm not playing them down because they're amazingly big tournaments. But I think it's different for Chinese lads winning tournaments in their own country and then going over to Britain or Europe and then being able to dominate the British players in this part of the world. And I think that's a test for them. Xintong's done it. Can Wu Yize do it? That's the problem. And I think Prentix has just commented, and it is a problem. The pockets in China are different. They're completely different. And that is something that needs to be said. And I will talk about that a little bit later on. So I've spoken a little bit about my preview for this season. My review for this season. We've spoken a little bit about who you think's going to win the World Championship. I am going to go through the first round of the Players' Championship as a little preview. I've got all 8 first round matches. I'm not going to go through every match, but after the first round, I'll give you who I think is going to win. So, and then after that, we'll get back to your comments, and I'll add a few things, and then I want this stream to be about an hour, so another half an hour, so the people that have missed it can come back and watch it. I will do more streams like this in the future as well, so don't worry. If you guys like it, I will continue. So, first game of the Players' Championship: Neil Robertson against John Higgins. If you want, put your predictions in the comments. I'll look at them. I think that's going to be a good match, very competitive match. I think, though, John Higgins is one of those players now. I think he doesn't win matches quickly and easy. John wins matches. He plays a lot of 6-4s, a lot of 6-5s. He eases his way into tournaments. I think he's a brilliant player still, and he can win tournaments. I think he often wins tournaments now. He plays a lot of frames, and I think this season, he won Tour Championship coming back and winning a lot in a final frame, or was it 10-8? He won the World Open, around the same time. This season, he got to the final at the Masters, and I feel that he might be a bit overcooked going into the Players' Championship. So I'm going to go Neil Robertson to win 6-4. I just think that Neil's will be just too good for him. And John hasn't had the best season, although he is in the top 16 on a one-year list. So I'm going to go with Robertson. The second match, Chris Wakelin against Zhao Guodong, is the toss of a coin, 8th versus 9th on the one-year list. If this was in Guangzhou or Beijing or Shanghai, I would say Guodong. Because it's going to be in Telford, I'll say Chris Wakelin. I just think that whatever country, the home player seems to have an advantage at the moment. So I'm going to go with Chris Wakelin to win in a final frame decider. But I would not be surprised if Guodong won that because he's a serious operator. I'm just going to go with Wakelin. The third game, Judd Trump against Zhao Yulong. I was really impressed with Zhao at the UK Championship. I think Judd wins this one fairly easily. I'd say 6-1 or 6-2. Just also, by the way, if you guys are putting comments in, I'll get back to them at the end. So if it's not about what I'm talking about currently, I'll go through them all and read them out at the end, and I'll do a sort of Q&A at the end, or an AMA or whatever you like. So if you want to put your comments in, just put them in. I've just seen Prentrix, you've put a quick question in. I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, so yeah, Judd Trump to beat Zhao Yilong pretty easily. Again, it's the Players' Championship. It's the 16 best players this season, so anyone can beat anyone. But I just think Judd will beat him. Mark Williams against Barry Hawkins, which is a little bit what I was talking about a minute ago. Mark Williams, for me, sometimes I feel like he needs to get through the first, round, no matter how he plays, just get through it. And Barry Hawkins is going to be a tough one. Barry Hawkins is going to be a tough one to get through. I think Mark will come up short. I was very surprised with how Mark played in the Masters. And when he lost, he came out and said, there's going to be a lot more of this. So I can't see him winning that game just because I think Barry's going to be in good form. And I think Barry will beat him. Sean Murphy against Zhang Anda for the next one. On paper, Zhang Anda's probably in better form in the last sort of year. Sorry, not the last sort of year, last sort of few months. I meant to say in the last year, Sean Murphy's been the player in form, but in the last couple of months, I think Zhang Anda's been better. Obviously got to the final in Hong Kong. Sean is like, he's sort of, I think, searching again to try and win a tournament. Last year, Masters, and then he won, I think, he won another event, and he got to the final against Mark Williams and lost, I think, in Jian. I feel like Sean Murphy's kind of due a big run to the final of an event. So I think he'll beat Zhang Anda 6-4, although I think it'll be a tough match. I think he will beat Zhang Anda. Next game, Xiao Xintong against Elliot Slesser. I think Xintong wins this. Elliot Slesser 11th on the 1 year list, though. That shows a huge improvement from the man. He could be a player that could be a top 16 player for quite a while. I was really impressed with him. He beat Kyron Wilson at the UK Championship. Kyron didn't play well, but Elliot had to do what he had to do, and I was impressed with him. But I think this week, the way Xiao Xintong's playing, I think Xintong will beat him fairly easily, sort of 6-2, 6-3. And then Wu Yiza against Mark Allen. Now, chat, who's going to win between Mark Allen and Wu Yiza? Because I was doing the prep for this stream a few hours ago, and I went through, and this was the game I thought, I just don't know. The table's going to be tight, so Wu Yiza won't have that. He's a potter, and if it was in China, I'd say Wu Yiza to win. But because the pockets are going to be tighter, it's in England, Telford, which is a venue that Mark Allen will be pretty sort of used to. I think it will be close. And I, from what I can see in the chat, everyone thinks Wu Yiza. I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to say Mark Allen wins that. But I completely agree with you guys. When I first sort of assessed that game, I went Wu Yiza. I agreed with Prentrix. I said Wu Yiza 6-3. I thought Wu Yiza's in form. Mark Allen hasn't been good for ages now. Mark Allen's 10th on the 1 year list. Wu Yiza's 7th. So I thought, you know what? Wu Yiza wins that easily. However, I'm going to predict that Mark Allen wins. Mark Allen wins a lot of matches 6-5. And although he's trying to change the way he plays, he's still a tactical master. And I think he'll look at that game and go, I'm just going to tie this guy in knots. If Wu Yiza gets through that match and Mark Allen plays anywhere half decent, it will be a big match for Wu Yiza, because Mark Allen will know he won't be able to outpot him, probably even outscore him at the moment. Mark Allen isn't in the best form. But I think he'll look at it and think, well, if you're really as good as you think you are, and everyone says you are, let's see. And that match, I think, will go down to the wire, and I think Mark Allen will win it. Because I think Mark Allen will show tactically that Wu Yiza isn't quite there yet, especially on tighter tables, different kind of pockets in UK conditions, which I think is a little bit different, because I think the crowds in the UK are different. I think they're a little bit more In China, they get a lot of support. I think here, as natural, the British players get more support, and I think that can take its toll on certain players. I think players like Jin Tong don't care, but we have seen players like Ding Junhui in the past it affect them. So I think Wu Yiza, it's a little bit like, let's see what he can do. If he won, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm so surprised, but I'll say Mark Allen to win that game. I'm gonna double down on it, and I'll die on that hill. But you guys are probably gonna message me and be like, oh no, you were wrong. But we'll see. And the last game is Mark Selby against Jack Lisowski. Lisowski obviously won his first ranking event at the Northern Ireland Open. Mark Selby's been one of the players of the season. A little bit of a mismatch for me. I think Mark Selby will cruise that. I think Mark Selby is the opposite of a player that Jack Lisowski wants to play in the first round of a tournament. Selby will score as heavy and he'll just out safety. I think Selby 6-3. So that would mean that the quarterfinals, I'll go through. Do you know what? I'll go through. Quarterfinals would be Robertson against Wakelin. For me, this is my prediction. So obviously, if you guys can say your own predictions, but I'm just going to give you my predictions. I think Robertson will beat Wakelin. I think Judd Trump will beat Barry Hawkins. I think Zhao Xintong will beat Sean Murphy. And I think Mark Selby will beat Mark Allen. So you'll have a semi-final matchup of Robertson, Trump, Xintong, and Selby. I think Robertson will beat Trump, Selby will beat Xintong, and it will be a Robertson-Selby final. And I think Robertson will win the Players' Championship. Neil Robertson will win the Players' Championship. So that's my prediction for the tournament. Why do I think Neil Robertson? Well, he's number one on the 1 year list. Wrongly or rightly, it's because he won in Saudi. And when you win in Saudi, it means you're number one on the Grand Prix, the Tour, and the Players, practically. I mean, you could win more than 500,000 points if in other tournaments. But for all intents and purposes, if you win in Saudi, you're number one on the 1 year list going into all these events. So for me, I think Robertson, he gets through the John Higgins game, and then I think Chris Wakelin, he'll rub his hands together. Although Chris Wakelin's a tough player, I think he'd rather play, Chris Wakelin than Wu Yiza or Mark Allen or Sean Murphy or Barry Hawkins or, Judd. I think you'll look at that, and I think at the moment when he's been playing his best, he's been better than Judd. So I think he'll beat Judd, and I think he'll come out of that side of the draw pretty unscathed. I think in the final, anyone can beat anyone, and my final will be Selby Robertson. Selby could win that. I'm just going to go Robertson. It's just a hunch, and yeah, I think that would be a really good Players' Championship. So yeah, I'm going to get back to some of your comments now, and then we'll press on. So let's go a bit further up. So yeah, you guys are sort of giving me who you think is going to win. A lot of Wu Yiza fans, which is great because I like Wu Yiza. Just going to look through to see any questions that you've asked me because I like to get back to all your questions. I think the World Championship will be one of the following three players: Judd, Xintong, or Kyron. Hedging your bets there a little bit. We'll watch the Worlds with no JV best I can. Going to feel empty. Yeah, I have not decided whether I'll be watching it on the BBC or on TNT yet. I think I want to see who's in the studio for TNT. The problem with the Chinese players is the pockets at China are larger than the ones in UK and Germany. So when they come over here, they rattle a lot. Yeah, I agree. It might be placebo, but I think the pockets, especially in England, are much tighter. And that's why at the UK Championship, when the pockets were unbelievably tight, there was no Chinese players did well in that tournament. I think Neil wins. Quick question. In one of your videos from Prentrix, you said you want to improve and get coach. If you're based up north, my coach is fantastic. No, I'm based in the south, unfortunately. Coaching for me is going to come in a few months. I'm going to touch, before I go, I will touch on the series coming up, the Century series. So we'll chat a little bit about that. But thanks for the Prentrix. Do you know what? I will because I might actually end up going up north anyway. So, do you know what? I'll take a picture of that comment so I don't forget, and then I can contact you if I need to. Thanks for that. Is there any Jerry J2? Is there any plans to interact with any other creators in the sports space? There's a lot of plans. Is there any concrete plans? Not yet. Not yet. There's a couple of channels, smaller channels, who I think are actually probably smaller than me now, that I want to interact with, and I will be hopefully talking to them and doing some because when the World Championship comes around, I want to be uploading at least once a day, even if it's kind of like this kind of content where I give you my summary or lives, watch-alongs. I really want to be engaging with the community, and I think if I could engage with a few snooker creators, that would be great. So there will be some stuff, and when I get this Road to a Century series up and running, I do have plans to contact hopefully someone like Michael Holt, and maybe get a coaching session with him and film with him. So that's something that I think could be on the cards. Obviously, I did collab with Dan Murrin, who is the host of the Snooker Hall podcast. Did a podcast with him. He also featured in one of my videos. I need to speak to Dan at some point because I would like to do a video with Dan. But obviously, because he lives, he doesn't live in the UK, so it's quite difficult because he's not, not local. But I could definitely do this kind of content with him. He's a very knowledgeable guy. So if you like podcasts and you love snooker, go and listen to his podcast with Dan Murrin. So yeah, just like Murphy at the Tour Champs 2 years back, reigning champ couldn't return to defend it. Your thoughts? Yeah, obviously, I don't really think about defending champions and stuff like that. I think there's so many instances where you have a defending champion, and then people say, "Oh, well, a defending champion hasn't defended it in 3 years" and stuff like that, and then it turns out and it changes. I get what you mean. Murphy these days, seems to lose early. Yeah, he's inconsistent. Bottom line, he's inconsistent. I think working with the people that he's working with, I know he's working with Peter Ebdon. Murphy's inconsistent. You look at Sean Murphy's ability, and you look at how many tournaments he's won, and you just think, why have you only won like 12 ranking events? I think he's won 12 ranking events or 13 ranking events. For a player of Sean Murphy's quality, 13 ranking events. He should have won at least 20. It's just inconsistency, I would say. Let's see, any more questions? Donnie Scott, a super fan. Alan overestimates his talent and Yeezer underestimates his own. Yeah, it could be, but that overestimation has probably got Mark Allen toward number one. That confidence is what winners have. I think Will Yeezer, if he wants to be a top player, he needs to embrace it, and not worry about his own game. We've seen Ding, someone that, doesn't seem to have that strong arrogance in his head, winning mindset. And, Ding is one of those players that should have won so much more. I don't want Will Yeezer to be like that. So I think Will Yeezer needs to adopt that Mark Allen mindset if he wants to get anywhere. Trump Selby final possible. Obviously, if Robertson loses in the semis. I'm on the journey of decline these days. Mr. Elusive, Mark Allen was absolutely unplayable for a couple of years. I think with Mark Allen, he was one of those players that was really inconsistent, and then but won tournaments and was sort of like a top 8 player, but didn't win all the time. And then he went, right, I want to win something. So he decided to go really negative and play match play snooker. And in that sort of 18 months, 2 year period where he got to world number one, he won loads of tournaments. And everyone was like, well, he's playing really negative, but he's winning. And I think Stephen Hendry said, well, he's playing really negative, but he's winning tournaments. So, we can't really criticise him. But now he's playing negative and not winning tournaments. And I think recently he did an interview and said that he wants to play more aggressively. So I think with Mark Allen, it's a bit of a work in progress, a bit of a transitional period. And you might see a few silly losses. You might see a few really good performances. But I don't think Mark Allen is going anywhere, because I think as a snooker player, he's still a top player. And I still think he's a player that can win really big events. I think he needs to sort of get his identity back as a snooker player. He's still capable of winning tournaments. I will never, Mark Allen is a top snooker player. Wu Yeezer might be a favourite against him, but I still think Mark Allen could beat him. I thought Wu Yeezer and Zhao could both do with going to someone over in the UK with someone like Peter Ebden. Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's so much coaching in China. The amount of coaching that these Chinese players do is unbelievable, which is why a lot of those players have a very repeatable technique. And a lot of those players are like carbon copies of each other, which in a way can be slightly boring. I think I've had a discussion before where if you get like 30 players who are all perfect, it's kind of a bit boring. But however, that technically they're so amazing. But I think what they get in terms of coaching technicals and overall play, they obviously don't have a lot of sports psychology in China. I don't know. I can't make that comment. But I am inferring that they don't, because a lot of the Chinese players that come through seem to be like rabbit in the headlights when they play at Crucible or they play, Ali Pali. Zhao Xintong isn't, and that's why he's so good, because he just doesn't seem bothered, and I think that can help him. Wu Yeezer, he's still too young to kind of make that decision yet, but I think Wu Yeezer, if he wants to be a world champion and be a repeated winner, and that's what I said earlier on, what Chinese player outside of Zhao Xintong can consistently win, Wu Yeezer can definitely do it, but I think he needs to adopt a Mark Allen mindset rather than a Ding Junhui mindset. Kingsley Amy Bates, Allen was once my favourite player, then he completely overhauled his game. Yeah, he changed to a defensive player, it worked, doubled down on it, and now it's not working anymore, and he's like, well, I've got to go back to normal. Adam Peterson, does anyone know what the amateur scene is like in China? I think a large part of UK player match day development comes from the tournament reps from a young age rather than just pure practice. I think there is a massive amateur scene in China. I think the average player is really good. But I think there is a little bit of elitism in that structure from my own research. So some players that maybe are a little bit more talented and outspoken don't actually get as much coaching, which is why we get a lot of players that come on the tour who all seem quite carbon copies of each other, not just as players, but mentally. And they're quite insular, if that's the right word, or maybe not insular, but more introverted, which is why if you look at certain Chinese snooker players, they all play similar shots, and they always play within themselves at times, which is why I think Wu Yeezer and Zhao Xintong, everyone loves them because they're aggressive and they go for it and they play different types of shots. But if you look at certain other players that have come through, players such as Liu Haishan and Tian Pengfei, they all seem to be Ding Junhui carbon copies, just not as good. Does that make sense? I don't mean that in a rude way, but you get my point. And I think that needs to change, but we can't influence that because China is out of our grasp. What do you think the reason for the inconsistent pocket sizes? Okay, this might be my last question that I answer now before I crack on. I've got two theories. My first theory is going to be the theory that I think is more likely, and then I've got a conspiracy theory. So I'll go downstairs and get some tin foil and put it on my hat. The first theory, I think, is that they use the same diameters, they use the same pocket sizes and measurements all through the WPBSA and WST, from the amateur game all the way up to the professional game. But obviously there are things you can do to make the pockets bigger. Depends on the size of the cut and depends on how pronounced the pocket is, whether the pocket is rounded, whether it's like a block shape. I think Donnie Scott, who's one of my subscribers, was talking about in Canada, they used to have tables that had really tiny pockets, but just because of the way the pockets were cut, the actual pocket size wasn't different. It was just a different size of cut. And I think maybe in China, they're a bit more liberal with their pocket sizes because of the way they cut the pocket. And in the UK, we're more traditionalist and we probably use the same kind of people consistently, and they try and cut the pockets to make the game more difficult because that is generally what the professional game should do. So I just think Probably it's due to differences in people that do, table fitters and people working on the, because I don't think they use table fitters all year round. I think they use different table fitters for different tournaments. So that will obviously create some inconsistency. My tinfoil hat, maybe a little bit controversial claim is I think that the WST may want the Chinese and Asian events to look more appealing to spectators. And by doing that, obviously they open the pockets up slightly. There's more break building. If you watch Ruiz at the International Championship and then watch him at the Masters, you'll see two different players, because at the International Championships he was pocketing everything. At the Masters, he realised he couldn't do that because the pockets were too tight. So my conspiracy theory is that maybe they want to promote the sport more in China and in those countries because there's more money in it. Maybe they do want the future of the sport to be primarily there. Maybe go, look at the International Championship, there was 100 centuries. Look at the Scottish Open, there was only 30. The play's slower, blah, 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 blah. I think it could be political, could be to do with trying to make the game more attacking and more pool-like, less safety play in those countries. And if you do that, you get more winners. So, if you like, for example, the International Championship, massive bucket pockets. Ruiz wins a ranking event. Everyone in the whole world snooker knows he's a world ranking event winner. Doesn't matter how big the pockets were. It doesn't say that on the ranking event winners list. So when he comes to the UK, he has that confidence, and then you'll get more winners from the Far East. And that will help the sport go global potentially, or maybe might monopolize it for the Chinese. But that's my controversial take on it. It might be slightly controversial, but I think it could be true. Right, Donny Scott. The tighter pockets appeal to superior players, but the large pocket, yeah, of course. The larger, the long and short of it is that I think a lot of us want the pockets to be tighter because it's more exciting, because you get more misses and you get more twists and turns. But I think the masses, the people that wouldn't be in this stream and the people that would watch the BBC once a year, would probably want bigger pockets for more break building and more potting. Simple as. Last one, Jeremy Marshall, you've obviously come late. Do you think Ronnie can win another Worlds? Categorically, yes, I think he can. And if you want to see my full opinion of that, when I post this live stream, you can go back to the start and you can listen, because I spoke a little bit about Ronnie at the start of this live stream. So, yeah, I think he can. Right. So we've spoken about the Players' Championships. We've spoken about Ronnie. We've spoken about Triple Crowns. I'm going to talk about Players of the Season. I think we've basically covered them. Neil Robertson, Mark Selby, Sean Murphy, Mark Williams early on this season, Wu Yiza, and now Zhao Xintong. I actually would say Elliot Slessor as well has been amazing this season in terms of what he can do. Now, I've spoken about most of those players at length, and they're all brilliant. I want to speak about Luca Brissell. I did a video on Luca Brissell recently, and it was really popular. And I think it got about 30,000 views, which is a lot for my channel, and a lot of comments. And I think a lot of you guys agreed with most of my points, that maybe Luca isn't as good as we thought he was. He just had a really good tournament at World Championships in 2023. And now he's just gone back to what he was, and maybe he doesn't take the sport seriously enough, etc., etc. But there was a group of people in the comments. There was three groups. There was Camp 1, which is what I just said. The people that think maybe Luca was just had a brilliant tournament. He's a very good player, very inconsistent. There was a second camp that was like, why are you criticizing Luca? He can do what he wants. What are you doing with your life? That kind of person. And they have their opinion. But what I want to concentrate on is the third camp. Like, Luca will be a player that can win any tournament at any time, but won't do it consistently. So I think a lot of people were saying in that video, Luca could end his career as a 4-time world champion. Let's say he retires at 50, but he won't. He won't do it consistently. So what I think what they were saying with that is that he'll be a player that will pop up every couple of years, win a big event, and go missing. I don't know if that's possible because of how snooker is these days and how difficult it is to win. But it was very interesting, and it wasn't just one person, it was like a lot of people. Sorry, I'm just fiddling with my charger. It wasn't just one person, it was a lot of people that said that. They said that, you know, Luca won the World Championship as a surprise. He didn't have a great season going into that tournament. He won the World Championship because it was a perfect storm. He was obviously good enough at the tournament, played the best kind of snooker. And then since then, he's not been motivated. He's not played in enough events, but he will in the future, and he will go on to win more tournaments. And I think he said earlier on in the season, I think in January, I'm going to win a big tournament soon. So we can maybe kind of take from that he might have hunger. I just want to ask you guys, because I know that you guys in this, the 17 people, and the 17 people in this this live are going to be diehards. I want to know what you guys think about that, because I categorically disagree. I just don't think Luca will win another big event. I can't see him winning another big event. I just don't think he's there. He's not all there. Don't want to be disrespectful, but I think for a top player, absolutely no chance. I think that was Luca Brisell's peak. He did a Joe Johnson. He, won a world championship, had a sort of each year period as a top player, and that's that. But what do you guys think? Do you think I'm being a bit harsh? Do you think there is a possibility that he comes back and becomes a top 5 player, or do you think he's going to be patchy, win a few events here and there, or do you think that's it? He's done. Personally, from what I've seen, I don't know if he has the mentality to even win the Scottish Open anymore. I think he's reached the pinnacle of his profession as the world champion, and that's it for him. He just wants to do Ironmans and watch football. I even saw someone say that he was going to be making music, which is great. And this is not me criticizing him, but I'm a snooker YouTuber, so I was just wondering what you guys think about that. So Kingsley and Amy Bates' reply to that: I don't know about that. I think you have to be top tier to win the Worlds. I just think he lost the hunger once he achieved the title. If he regained that, he can win more Triple Crowns. Brisell's another that can benefit from an Ebden to give him the mental strength and motivation to push on. I agree with that. But my point is this, right? If, say, for example, Sean Murphy, he knew that he wanted to win more titles. So he decided, right, I'm going to go and work with Peter Ebden, and I'm going to try and win the world title or whatever. And he won the Masters, and he's having a really, really big resurgence. Jack Lasowski, I think, has worked with Peter Ebden. These players know that they want to win, and to win, they might need better mentality. So they go to these kind of people. Ronnie O'Sullivan done it with Ray Reardon. Does Luca Brisell want to win more titles? Does he wake up every morning and think, oh, I want to win another world championship? I want to win the Masters. I don't think he does. I think Sean Murphy wakes up every morning and remembers what it felt like to win the world championship and thinks, I don't want to retire until I win another one. I think that's what keeps Sean Murphy going as a snooker player. I want to win another world title. I don't think Luca gives a monkey's. I don't think he cares. So why would he go to Peter Ebden? He wants to turn up at the World Championship, do the bare minimum, live like a rock star, play rock star snooker and win the title. Because it worked the first time. My point, I don't think it can work again. So, yes, he could benefit from Ebden. I don't think he'll even make the call. He doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to. Prentrix, I think if Luca runs out of money and goes back to before he won the Worlds, he will suddenly win another event. Yeah, that's probably a caveat. If he has that's a motivating factor though. If he has no money and he goes, right, I'm good enough to win another event, let's go and practice for the World Championship, and then he wins it, that would mean that he was motivated. There is no question that on ability, he probably should be world number 1 right now. Because if you look at age, you look at talent, and you look at, sort of the other players around him, I think talent and age, you've probably got Judd, Zhao Xintong, and Luca. They're the three players that are in their prime physically, probably mentally, and talent-wise. You know, the likes of Ronnie, talented, but he's 50. Mark Selby's 40-odd. So, yeah, I think natural ability, Brissell, Xintong, and Trump, probably the three best players in the world. But Luca Brissell's world number 40. So his ability is not a problem. It's does he even want to? So I think it's a bit of a weird one. But this is the first year that Luca will have to qualify for the Worlds as an ex-world champion. He obviously won it in 23, qualified in 2024 as first seed, qualified in 2025 because he was still ranked in the top 10. Now he's world number 40-odd. He'll have to go to Pons Forge or the Sheffield Institute of Sport and play in the qualifiers. If he qualifies and he gets through 2 or 3 matches, is he one of the favourites? What do you guys think? Donny Scott, Zhao and Luca have the same table presence. They play the table the same way, exactly, with the same attitude. I just think Zhao Xintong probably has a little bit more, probably wants to win more. I think Luca doesn't want to. But my question for you guys is, if Luca wins 2 or 3 matches to get to Sheffield, turns up, is he one of the favourites? Because we'll know he's motivated because he's won those matches. He'll be in the tournament. Exactly. If he came through the qualifiers, he's the very last player I want to draw. If you're, put it this way, if you're Ronnie O'Sullivan and you everyone thinks you're done, right? Or you're John Higgins or Mark Williams who are in your 50s, right? Top players, all 3 of them. But Luca Brissell has just played 2 qualifiers, made 5 centuries. You've got to play him in the first round at the Crucible. You don't want to play him. You don't want to play him. So my thing is, obviously, he might crash and burn and go out in the first qualifying round. But if he gets through, do you guys think he's one of the favourites? I think so, because I think he will play someone like a Selby or Murphy. Yeah, he played Ding and Trump in the World Championship last year, beat Ding and pushed Trump all the way. So, you know, and he qualified automatically for that tournament. So he was always going to play in it. So we didn't know what his preparation was like. I just think he could be a dark horse if he turns up, wins his qualifiers, gets there, gets an easier first round draw, maybe avoids a Trump, avoids a Selby, avoids a Ronnie, avoids a Robertson. If he can get someone like Chris Wakelin or Zhao Gudong, I think Luca could go deep because it would show that he's prepared. But yeah, that is mostly what I have done, or what all my prep for this stream. We've spoken a little bit about the Players' Championships, about the Triple Crown events, Mark Selby and Kyle Wilson winning those events. I spoke at length about Ronnie O'Sullivan, the fact that I think he can win an 8th and is still my pick to win the world title because I predicted early on in the season that he would. I also said in that predictions video that he'd beat Zhao Xintong in the final. So if I get that right, I probably should go and play the lottery. But I just made that as a kind of joke. So I've spoken about that. I've spoken about the Players' Championship, and I've spoken about Xintong, about Luca Brissell, and I've answered some of your questions. So for the next 10 minutes, if you guys want to answer any ask any questions, I'll answer them. I'll end this stream about 20 past 8. So get your comments in, get your questions in. Prentrick says, I just feel like Luca now hasn't got the motivation, just plays off his natural ability. Completely agree. But my point is, if he gets to the World Championship first round, he'll have to play at least 2 matches to qualify. So that means that he would be somewhat motivated. Donny Scott, ultimately, I love Luca. I would love to see him go all in, but I don't think he is predisposed to go all in. Me neither. I don't think so. I don't think he'll qualify for the World Championships. But if he does, I would put a tenner on him just for shits and giggles. So, guys, the 18 of you that have been in this stream for the last hour, I absolutely love you all. Thank you so much. I will be doing more of these as we get close to the World Championship. I will post this to my YouTube channel, so you can watch it back if you've missed parts. So for the next, say 10 minutes, I think I'll end the stream when it gets to 1 hour 15. Get your questions in. If you've got any questions you want me to answer, get the questions in. But yeah, like I say, I'm going to be doing some future streams. I think I will do a watch along, maybe Tour Championship final will be my first watch along, and then I'll do some watch alongs during the World Championship. I might do Ronnie O'Sullivan's first round. I think I might do Mark Selby's game. I'll do some of the top players in the World Championship, especially first round. I'll probably do the final. I'll also be doing some content like this where I'll be speaking to hopefully some other snooker creators, and we'll be talking about the day. Obviously, day 1 of the World Championships, day 2, day 3. So that'll be that to come. And then my analysis videos. I'm now analysing Ken Doherty on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. I'm also analysing some women's professionals, which will be coming up soon. I'll also be talking about some other stuff regarding rule changes in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for videos. Thursday, I'm back with the Ken Doherty analysis, and then it'll be Thursday, Sunday for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I had a little bit of time off. So apologies for that. I also quickly want to, before I go, like I say, keep asking questions, and I'll answer them all at the end. My Road to a Century series. So I think a lot of you in this stream will know what the Road to a Century series is. But for you that don't know what it is, it's going to be me, an average amateur, below average amateur, with a high break of 30, trying to make a century by the summer of 2028, which is 2.5 years basically, which is when I'll be 30. So I know it's going to be tough, but it's going to give me a reason to practice. But I'll be documenting in most of the steps. So obviously I'll be doing lots of practice behind the scenes, and I'll record bits and pieces and show you. But there will be a lot of things that I'll do. So I'll be going to get a new cue made, either made or purchased, and I'll be vlogging that. I'll be practicing with some friends. I'll be practicing with some other snooker content creators, hopefully. I'll also be looking to get coaching from some real life professional coaches, potentially do a little bit of a vlog with them, maybe ask them some questions, have a chat with them. Nothing too strenuous. I'm not trying to become Stephen Hendry's Q-tips, but it'd be good to get people like Michael Holt on the channel, Ian Burns, people like that who are obviously top pros, have been top pros. So that'll be coming. I'll also be doing updates of, my highest break. And I'll be showing, I'll be doing videos where I film and show you attempts. And it'll be long. It'll be a long series. It'll be a long series. It will go from, the first video is in production. I began making the first video in January. It will be posted in March, and then I'll be looking to hopefully do one a month up until the end of the series. So you probably get, who's good at maths? 27, 28 videos from the series. Obviously, we'll be doing lots of different stuff. There's going to be loads of stuff in it, loads of stuff. I'll be attending snooker events. I'll be attending tournaments. I'll be doing loads of stuff. So it might even be some opportunities if I grow this channel for you guys to get involved. If some of you are at the event and stuff like that, maybe I'll come and visit some of you guys and play you on camera and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to happen. The first video will drop early March, so I look forward to that. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to finish up by answering any questions. Prentrick says, do you think Mark Selby can win another world title? Yeah, but I think he's got to do it soon. I think he will win. I think he's favourite for the World Championship this year. I think he's favourite because I think the way he's been playing and the fact that he's the best all-round match player there's probably ever been, and he's in form. So I think Mark Selby will probably be my favourite to win the World Championship. Obviously, I said Ronnie, but that was a prediction I made earlier on, and I do think Ronnie can win it. But I think for Selby, if he's going to win a world championship, he needs to win it this year, next year, or the year after. I think those three win years. I think if it leaves the crucible after 2027 and goes somewhere else, I think he'd have missed the boat to win another one. I think if the world championship moves from the crucible and moves abroad, you will start to see some different winners. And I think the UK monopoly over the world championship will die if it moves from the crucible. So this year and next year, both going to be at the crucible. Mark Selby, if he wins one of them, then I think he could. Yeah, definitely think he could. Who do you think wins the World Seniors in May? Jeremy Marshall. Am I right in saying that anyone can enter this now? I need to Google this because I'll be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the World Seniors. I don't know why. I just think it's a bit sad when you see these players that were really, really good once, and now they seem like they can't make 20. So Robert Milkins is in it. So what is the lineup? Yeah, so look, Mark Williams, Ali Carter, Stuart Bingham, Rhiannon Evans, Anthony Hamilton, and Matthew Stevens, and now Robert Milkins are all in the World Seniors. For me, that is not good. I don't think the World Seniors should include tour players. That for me, that's wrong. So in answer to your question, Jeremy Marshall, who do you think wins the World Seniors in May? Probably the best current pro that doesn't do well in the World Championships. So like Mark Williams got to the World Final again. He's not winning the World Seniors. I think someone like Ali Carter or Stuart Bingham. I feel like they've got points to prove. Yeah, I'll go Ali Carter or Stuart Bingham. Ali Carter, in answer to your question, Jeremy. I think Ali Carter will. I just think that out of those players, he'll probably be the most hungry to win that. Obviously, Stuart Bingham and Mark Williams are both ex-world champions. Probably won't see it as too serious, whereas Ali Carter's never won a world championship, probably will. Matthew Stevens as well, but I don't think he's as good as Ali Carter anymore. Prentrix asks, would you analyse top amateurs, low-ranking pros? If so, would you do Daniel Wormersley? He's one of my good mates. Yeah. I have had this conversation. Daniel Wormersley, he's not a pro, is he? Let me Google him. Right, he's an amateur. Yes. In answer to that question, I have no problems with analysing any player. I'm a snooker fan and I don't discriminate between snooker players. But I had this conversation with Donny Scott, who's in this chat currently. He said that he thought people would want to see a lot more analysis of emerging players, and I agree. However, I think when they say emerging players, they mean people mostly want to see players like Wu Yiza and Pan Jun-soo and Chang Beng-yu, people that have come on the scene and have done well at the top level. I think for me to kind of analyse amateurs and lower ranked players who are not really known outside of the circle might not be the best thing for me to do for my channel. Now, I know obviously I want to be as a snooker purist as possible, and I don't want to just make videos for growth financially and for subscribers, but I do have to think about the fact that to make an analysis video, I have to do at least 4 or 5 hours of prep. Then I have to record, I have to edit it. So you're talking 10 to 12 hours for a video. And when I'm doing that video on Ronnie O'Sullivan or Mark Selby or Mark Williams or Wu Yiza, you're going to get 4, 5, 10, 12, 15, 20,000 people watching it. It's going to help my channel and there's a kind of a reward from it. If I was to do an amateur, it's not going to get many views. And although I still think it's as relevant as any video. It might not be as important for me to make. However, I am making a video which will analyze all of the current women's players on the main tour. So that is first step. The second step is I might do a box of analysis videos for certain players. So, like you just said there, Daniel Wormersley, if he was to be on my radar, I might do a video that analyzes, say, 5 players ranked between 100 and 128. And do that as a standalone video that might be 10 to 12 minutes instead of doing one video that's 10 minutes or 8 minutes or 7 minutes long for one player. So yes, I would analyze top amateurs and low ranking pros, and I will take a picture of that so that I remember. But will I do it as in, like, because currently I do it, you know, just how good is Ronnie O'Sullivan, or is Steve Davis really that good, or whatever. I wouldn't do that for a low ranking pro, because it just wouldn't. It wouldn't make the channel grow, you know. Kingsley and Amy Bates, took me 9 years to get my first century. I'm sure we'll beat that. There will be little bursts of progress. Just do drills, practice matches, learn the pace of the table, utilizing cushions. Yeah, I'm fully aware that it's going to take me a long time. Donny Scott, it's kind of like looking at a 60-year-old woman who dresses like she's 20. Yeah, I don't like the seniors, and I don't like wild cards for the main tour. I think Dominic Dale was brilliant and retired when he was still in the top 64. Joe Perry as well. Just end it. You know, stop trying to chase past glories. Listen, that's just my opinion. Yeah, the last comment, yeah, I knew what it meant. Michael, should be a total separate. Yeah, the World Seniors Tour should not have Mark Williams in it. How can you be top 8 player on the world rankings and then be in a World Seniors? Just, you know, just silly. And the final one, Kingsley and Amy Bates. Imagine Ronnie enters the seniors late and takes tanker. Excuse me, that would be brilliant. I think Ronnie must qualify, because Mark Williams does. Oh, can you imagine? Could you imagine? Yeah. Right. So, guys, that is it. That is the stream. I'm starting to get a sore throat. I've spoken for nearly an hour and 20 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed it, for those who've watched it. If you're watching the stream for the first time as a video, I hope you've enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks to everyone. You know, I think there was 30 of you at one stage, or 25 of you all watching concurrently. And for a small snooker channel that only has 2,500 subscribers and isn't doing a watch along or any rage bait content, I think that's pretty good. I'll continue to do stuff like this and reward you guys, the main, you know, my main core subscribers. So thanks, guys. If you missed any of the video of the stream, I'm gonna post it in a minute so you can go back and watch it, and I'll see you on Thursday for Ken Doherty's analysis. Cheers, guys.